my FPL Game Week 20 team selection. In today's video, we're going to have a look at how my team is lining up going into Game Week 20. We're going to discuss a couple of transfers. I've got 2 free transfers this week. Quite a few players in my team I'd be happy to sell and quite a lot of players I'd be looking to buy. But I might end up actually just rolling my transfer this week. So we'll discuss all of that, why I might roll and what it might mean for my team going forward. Or what are the couple of transfers I might use this week and what it will mean for my team going forward as well. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here, and thank you very much for joining. I apologize if anyone watched yesterday's video, the transfer targets video. In it, I said while I was recording, I was like, the schedule's back to normal, everything's fine, I'm here, I'm back, and etc, etc. And then I went to edit that video, and my computer just basically went on such a slow, and it is continuing to do so, to the point where a video which normally would take about 15-20 minutes to export and upload was taking like 3 or 4 hours, and my computer just was freezing the whole time. So basically, I'm going to do my best over the next couple of days while I get this sorted to try and get everything up and out as possible. I think I know the system, and I had some very helpful people from the Adobe support team helping me out with Premiere Pro. So I think I've got it fixed. So hopefully you don't notice any difference, or this video isn't late or anything like that. But we're doing our best to get things out, as it's been a busy period, and we've got another game week coming on Saturday morning, a usual deadline. Now we're back to sort of normal things, although I think game week 22 is then back to a midweek deadline. But we've got a game week 20 deadline, we've got a usual week. But before we do that, let's have a look at game week 19, which has just ended. Unfortunately, I did get a red arrow. I dropped from 58k down to 71k, and rolling my transfers at the moment is going to bring me a little bit of pain, and I'm fully aware of that. And I've spoken about it on my streams, I've spoken about it on videos as well, that I could make transfers that maybe boost my points in this week or next week or last week, but I don't necessarily think it boosts my team for the long term. And when we look at my potential transfers this week, I feel like we're in a similar boat, that I could use up some transfers this week and next week, or I could roll, take maybe 1 or 2 weeks of slightly bigger pain, and then hopefully come out at the end of it the right way. So looking at my team again, I mean, Arsenal conceded from 0.33 XG once again. Like, they are doing so well defensive in terms of data, but not as many clean sheets to show for it. Munoz conceding against Southampton and then having over 0.5 expected goal involvement in that game, and only coming away with 2 points is a real shame. Trent with a 15 is something to be happy about. In my midfield, real disappointments. Basically, I got a red arrow because I tripled Chelsea and a single Man United, and neither of those teams scored a goal. Between the 4 of those attackers, their teams didn't score a single goal, and both conceded several. So that basically meant I got a red arrow. So nothing from Palmer, nothing from Enzo, nothing from Jackson, nothing from Ahmad. Salah captain, very happy it was on him. Didn't even consider moving off. I know there was a little bit of discussion on the deadline stream about that. There was a bit of discussion about whether I should play Mykolenko over someone. To be honest, the only real player that he could have played over, there was talk about João Pedro on the stream, there was talk about Enzo and even Ahmad, and it didn't really make much difference. Happy I ended up with Mykolenko on the bench. João Pedro coming in with a couple of assists, which are nice, but it's still not much goal threat. Like, if you watch those Brighton games, the goal threat's not really there, which is not great. And then Alexander Isak just continues to return. I'm very happy I brought him back, because selling him a few weeks ago was a big mistake. And then, of course, I have Greaves on my bench, who kept a clean sheet against my triple Chelsea attack. Greaves on my bench, who we don't even know if he plays, scored more points than my triple Chelsea attack combined, is just fantastic. But anyway, it was a red arrow, 6 points below my safety score. Not great. I'm still hoping that we can climb up. I'm still happy with where I am at this point in the season with all the chips in hand. It could just have been a better few weeks over Christmas. So then, to have a look at some potential transfers, the first one revolves around some forwards. And I know you'll probably think, well, Harry, why are you not considering selling Jackson? I'm going to hold on to Jackson. I think the data is still good. I think Chelsea are still creating chances, and I think the fixtures coming up are still good. I plan on keeping Jackson. Now, João Pedro could leave my team this week, and there are 3 potential replacements. I could go to a cheaper one and keep the money in the bank that I've got and go to Raul Jimenez of Fulham. The next 3 or 4 fixtures are really nice. It does get a little bit more difficult after that. The only slight concern with Jimenez is if I do hold him longer term, is whenever there's a midweek round of fixtures, he's almost guaranteed to come off not to start the midweek one and get 60, 70 minutes every single game week anyway. But the fixtures are really nice for the next few, and he comes in at a really, really nice price. At the moment, I don't think he's the one I'll go for. I think he's the least likely because I'm looking at the best long-term forwards. But at a cheap price, I don't mind Jimenez. I suppose the other thing to mention is because I'm keeping Jackson, I don't want two players who are not 90% guaranteed to play every week. Just feels like there might be too much of a risk in there. Next up is Chris Wood. I just feel like my season went downhill when I sold Chris Wood a little bit. He's up to 6.7 million now. The upcoming fixtures are not bad. It would force me into a transfer next week, though, if I decide to buy Chris Wood, and we'll talk about that in a moment because he's got Liverpool at home and I wouldn't really want to play him there. But Wolves, Southampton, I think Bournemouth in the next four are some nice fixtures for him. And he's just returning consistently. Nottingham Forest continue to look like a team who just build chances for Chris Wood. And I had such joy owning him start of the season, and he's so good for bonus points that I wonder about just bringing him back and just setting and forgetting him in my team every week. And then the other one is based off the game last night. I have had my eye on getting another Arsenal attacker. It could be Gabriel Jesus. In theory, I could go to Gabriel Martinelli in my midfield, who did score. And I have been thinking about buying into my team recently. But Gabriel Jesus is probably the most likely one to come in for me. He did get a goal and an assist in that game. The fixtures remain really nice. Kai Havertz apparently had illness, but I still expect Gabriel Jesus to play pretty much every game, even when Havertz is available, because I expect them to play together. So Jesus and Wood are the most likely. Now, the reason that I favour Chris Wood slightly is because of a couple of other potential transfers that could go with it. And of course, I just know what I'm getting with Chris Wood for minutes all the time. And when we get to Champions League, could we see Gabriel Jesus get slightly reduced minutes or rotated? Potentially. The other potential transfer I have this week would be Mykolenko to Castagna. That would give me a better defender this week of Castagna at home to Ipswich, potentially playing a wing back. We don't know fully if the wing back system for Fulham is going to stick long term. Now, the thing is with Mykolenko, I don't love playing him. He does have the double at some point, but it's the double includes that fixture against Liverpool. So what do I really expect? It's basically just playing him in a single with maybe 1 or 2 extra points in a fixture against Liverpool, which is not worth holding on to him. Anyway, now that transfer doesn't really benefit me that much because I've got Munoz, I've got Gabriel, and I've got Trent. I don't really need Castagna, so he's basically only benefit this week. But that 0.1, if I was to do that and buy Chris Wood this week, so if I did Chris Wood in for João Pedro and Mykolenko to Castagna with my 2 frees, I would have exact money to do Enzo up to Sarr. Now, I'm not saying that buying Enzo was a mistake, and I'm fully aware I'm using way too many transfers on moving around some of my cheap midfielders, which is what puts me off this a little bit. But Sarr has a really good goal threat. His sort of open play threat in terms of actual goals rather than assists. Enzo's assist potential is still pretty good, but Sarr in front of goal has been great. He put up almost 1 expected goal against Southampton at the weekend. Now, he plays Chelsea this week, so I wouldn't buy him. But we're looking from game week 21, where he has Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, I think Man United and Everton after that. It is a really nice run. And I just never want to play Enzo because I've got Jackson and Palmer. And maybe that was a mistake when I decided to buy him, that I just didn't realise that from a mentality point of view, I wouldn't really want to play Enzo. So basically, if I do João Pedro to Jimenez, of course, I could afford Enzo to Sarr without doing the Mykolenko to Castagna transfer. If I did João Pedro to Chris Wood, I have exact money to do Mykolenko to Castagna and then Enzo to Sarr next week, as long as there's no more price changes, which it doesn't look like there's going to be. Or if I do João Pedro to Gabriel Jesus, I'll then be 0.1 short of all these transfers. I won't be able to get to Sarr even by selling Mykolenko because Gabriel Jesus is 0.1 more. So these other couple of transfers only really make sense if I go and buy Chris Wood this week. And the other thing I could do, of course, is just roll, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So just looking at my team, we've spoken about a few transfers, but actually I think the most likely thing is to roll my transfer again and just take what is probably another red arrow for me this week. So talking through my team, that would be double Arsenal defence away at Brighton. I mean, Arsenal have just been really strong defensively. They are going to be without Timber though. That's the only negative to the Arsenal defence at the moment, is they're likely to be a little bit weaker, and I don't massively expect a clean sheet, but I am potentially starting João Pedro this week, and maybe if it's him that wipes out the clean sheet, then it's not really the end of the world. I've just got loads of players playing against each other this week, which just means I'm unlikely to get a green arrow as a result, and I'm aware of that. But my team going into game week 21 looks really nice if I roll my transfer, and that will give me 3 transfers. And then in game week 21, if I roll again, that would give me 4 transfers, and I think that's better than making a transfer this week. There is, of course, a chance that I do Chris Wood in and Castagna in, and then go Sarr next week. But then I'm back to having just one transfer every week. So Munoz is in my defence. He does go up against my Chelsea attackers, but he is attacking. And even if he doesn't keep a clean sheet, he does have a bit of attacking threat. He's basically going up against the Fulham defence in most other people's lineups, which of course is not great. I've just got to hope that Ipswich score in that game, and then there's not that much difference between them, because I'm not expecting much from Munoz, but maybe he could get an attacking return. Gabriel, again, like, goal threat is really good from set pieces. I've got no worries with him, and I've got no worries with Trent. He's at home to a Manchester United team who are really, really struggling at the moment. Yes, I've got Bruno Fernandes. Yes, I've got Ahmad, but this was never the fixture I was going to buy them for. So defensively, it is what it is. I've got a few clashes here this week, but I don't mind what it looks like long term. I could, in theory, play either Mikalenko or Greaves away at Bournemouth and away at Fulham over Munoz, but I just don't think it's worth it. I think I'll just take the attacking threat that Munoz has got. Into midfield is Palmer, Enzo, Salah, and Bruno Fernandes back from suspension. Ahmad is on the bench. I don't really want to play any Manchester United attacker away at Liverpool. Bruno Fernandes on penalty and set pieces is not the end of the world. So I am going to play him, and I'm going to bench Ahmad. I actually wonder if Ahmad will end up going back to wing back at some point for Manchester United, which actually is not the end of the world, because he was actually more effective there when they had more attacking players on the pitch, like Rashford, like Højlund, like Xerxes, like Garnacho, like Fernandes, and then Ahmad at wing back. At the moment, when they're playing Fernandes, Ahmad, and one striker, they just don't feel like they've got enough attacking players on the pitch to score goals. So it might just be better for Ahmad and Manchester United in general if he does go back to wing back. But he's got Southampton at home next week. Then up front, it is going to be Jackson, it's going to be João Pedro, and it's going to be Isak. But perfectly happy with the triple up on the Chelsea attack this week away at Palace. It's not ideal, but all of them in turn are good picks. And I don't mind Palmer, I don't mind Jackson, and hopefully Enzo can do something, and then it's not too bad. And particularly because his main competition this week was going to be Morgan Rogers, who's suspended. And then Jackson's main competition was Cunha, who's also suspended. It makes it feel not quite as bad as it could have been going into this week. Of course, the likes of Gabriel Jesus, of course, the likes of the Fulham defence, of course, the likes of Chris Wood, if I don't buy him, are going to be big threats to my rank this week. But it's mainly this week where I feel the pain of it. Going forward, it is okay. João Pedro, of course. Now, his goal threat's not been that great. He goes up against Arsenal, but if he was to blank and Arsenal keep a clean sheet, if he was to score and wipe out the clean sheet, the worst case scenario is if someone else scores, wipes out the clean sheet, and it's no João Pedro involvement. But again, I just think I'm going to take it for 1 week. I could play Ahmad, but I don't really fancy that given I've got Fernandes in there as well. And then it's just Alexander Isak, who cannot stop scoring. Captaincy is obviously going to be on Mo Salah again for me, even though it's, Manchester United in theory a great fixture on paper. He is getting the Campsy armband. Cole Palmer currently with the vice captain, although with the triple Chelsea attack, I may put it on Isak, although he's the 12:30 kickoff as well. So I don't really have someone I want to vice captain, so let's just hope that Mo Salah does play. So to talk about why I might want to roll my transfer is because of how good my team looks on paper next week. I have a lot of really nice fixtures. Of course, we've got the double Arsenal defence, then we've got Trent, and then we've got Munoz with a great fixture. We drop Enzo to the bench for Ahmad and have double Manchester United midfield in Ahmad and Bruno Fernandes going up against Southampton. Of course, we'll have Mo Salah in there. Cole Palmer and Jackson, both with home fixtures. Both looks pretty nice on paper and hopefully some returns from them. And then we're going to have João Pedro up against Ipswich. And then we're going to have Alexander Isak in there as well with another nice looking fixture on paper. So in general, my team on paper next week looks really nice. So I'm using transfers. I'd basically be using all three of my transfers to probably improve my team for just this week. 2 this week and then 1 next week. But the 1 next week is basically just to try and match what I'd have next week anyway. So although my 2 transfers and 1 next week would make my team better this week, I'm not sure it's a good use of 3 free transfers. Because yes, like Sarr, yes, Wood, yes, Jesus, yes, the Fulham defence are flavour of the moment at the moment. And they are great buys if you need players in their positions. But in a few weeks, if there's a Liverpool double announced, Everton double, if there's something else that happens, if there's another team or another player that I start to like the look of, I will then start be chasing those points. So at the moment, the plan is to roll the transfer, play a 3-4-3. The aim, of course, and I said it on my stream, was to stay inside the top 100k by the end of game week 20, going into game week 21, rolling again with a nice looking team. So basically by the end of game week 21, with a nice looking team, after that week, going into game week 22, hopefully in the top 100k still with 4 transfers, and then I can start to make some more moves which make my team a little bit more exciting and along the lines of where I want to be. So not expecting the most groundbreaking week of FPL, but I think there's a little bit of planning and a little bit of patience needs to be had with this team. A few players who are just not performing, but I don't think they're bad picks regardless. But yeah, let me know what you think. Would you do the 2 transfers this week of Wood in and Castagna in and then Sarr in next week? Or would you roll this week, both the 2, and roll next week, in theory, get up to 4 free transfers, but maybe take a rank drop this week? Let me know it all in the comment section down below. Transfer targets was out last night. If you're looking to players to buy into your own team, there'll of course be a final decisions video on Friday before the usual deadline stream on Saturday morning. Thank you so much for your support. Again, to do this and wake up every day in 2025 and having this as my full-time job because of all your support is just crazy. I cannot say thank you enough. So I appreciate all the support. I appreciate putting up with the slight upload schedule differences over the festive period, but we are back now. Thank you all for watching. Any questions you have about your team, drop it in the comment section down below. 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.